and everything takes time. Financial success takes time. Relationships that are going to succeed takes time. And making yourself the most successful that you can make in your career takes time. And hopefully, if you do it right, by the time you reach that retirement age of about 65 years old, you should have enough money coming in that you should be able to quit working and spend the remainder of your days, hopefully another 40 years, living off of the success that you made. Now, in America, you would need a lot more money coming in on a regular basis in order to live off of the success that you made. But in other countries, which is why we cover a lot of other countries, you might be able to get that exact same standard of living or better for 30% of the value, where instead of spending 70 to 100,000 a year in America, you might be able to go to different countries where you're spending 24,000 to 30,000 a year living that upper middle class lifestyle and going out on a regular basis, housekeepers, all this other stuff, and not be struggling and still have extra money to invest. So it makes a lot of sense to keep your eyes and ears open as to what opportunities still exist, which ones are changing, like the ones in Puerto Rico, so that you know what you can take advantage of now versus which ones you don't qualify for or which ones that are outside of your reach of application. Michael said there was an Asian, a Hispanic, a black, and a white man on top of a mountain. The Asian jumps off and yells, "This is for the people." The Hispanic jumps, uh, "This is for the people." The black man throws, I know that joke. He throws the other guy off and says, "This is for my people." All right, that was that's the maximum level of dad jokes. Gotta love them. Okay, so uh, yeah, threw me through a loop. Yeah, so we give you guys information every day of the week, and this is fact checked information that provides you guys with the ability to make knowledgeable decisions. While you can take my information and run with it, I encourage you guys more so to take the information that I gave you and use it as a catalyst to do your own research to figure out how it benefits you and what you can do to incorporate that into your success. I come from an upbringing of, do what you know is right, you know, uh, stand up for what you believe in and defend it by any means necessary. Now, knowing what's right and what you're capable of doing requires you to do the research because we also have a fourth rule, which was accept the consequences of your actions before you perform the actions. So if you're accepting the consequences of your actions before you perform the action, doing what you know is right, standing up for what you believe in by any means necessary, you end up in a position where before you hop on that plane and go to that other country, you already know what the positives and negatives are of what you're about to go do, which allows you to proactively navigate the majority of fails that could occur in your attempts. Now, you can't plan for everything. There's always an X factor that you didn't know about that you didn't consider. But the what ifs lead to the how can I, and that leads to the what I'm capable of. When we were kids, there was nothing we couldn't do. Our imaginations were filled with what ifs and hypotheticals. As adults, we develop this restrictive cage of I can't, I can't, I can't. And the question is, why can't you? In my family, we have this observation that can't should not be in your vocabulary because you can do whatever you want to do in your life outside of what someone that has more control over the situation stops you from doing. That's it. So you can, without interference, there's nothing you can't do. But just saying that you can't without even trying, are you sure? Have you tried? What effort has you put towards that? Remember to like and subscribe. So we talked to you guys about broadening your horizons, making different changes. Uh, just looking at what happened over the past year, The rules are that if you're over the age of 35, if you're um, an American citizen and have lived in the country within the last 15 years consecutively, you can be the president, even if you've been convicted of 35 felonies. So even a convicted felon can run for president technically based on the dynamics. Now there's some unwritten rules about it, like you got to be able to manage $1 billion industry and stuff to that effect. You have to have sponsors and stuff to that effect. It is still a popularity contest, and if you're a convicted felon, not too many people are going to like you. But the fact is that you can still do whatever it is that you want to do in this country if you put enough effort to it. Now, there are going to be situations where your history will stop you from qualifying for certain things. You're not going to be able to a- achieve that CEO position if you've got fraud and felony charges from your past. You might not be able to get a job in a CEO, or not a CEO, but like a CIA position because of your criminal activity in the past, or your criminal affiliations from the past. These things where you're restricted based off of negative choices from your past that prevent you from being successful. So those of us who grew up in generations where we did not have the proper guidance from our ancestors to tell us what's going on, uh, and we not all of us have that good old boys club where the last generation is inspiring us to perform better in our current lives so that we can inspire our kids to perform better in their life. What we have right now is the capabilities here on this and that to give you guys the knowledge and information that you need to empower you guys to be able to make those proactive decisions so that you can make better decisions in your future. So that'll start by changing your impulsive spending, changing your unnecessary entertainment costs, changing your budgeting strategy, changing your investment opportunities, changing the way you negotiate for your raises, changing the way you look for your employment, changing the way you look for relationships so that you can change the way that relationship benefits you, changing the way you hang out with your friends so that you change the way your friends cost you money, which changes the way you spend money, and all of these changes leads to new opportunities. Now, still you might have blockage in certain areas from certain people that have more control over your situation than you do, but there are going to be way more opportunities that you can do when you're no longer living off of the mentality of it is what it is, I can't, and that's the way it's always been. Doesn't mean that that's the way it is right now, and it doesn't mean that that's the way it will be going forward. You have to try to make change. And the pioneers of change that carve new paths in life are the individuals that have the hardest way to go. The easiest routes are the routes that are taken by the many. And the more people on this road, the more congested that road is. While success is more easily achieved in this particular path, you have a longer wait because everybody else is taking that same path. When you take a different path for success, you have to cut through the weeds of restrictions. You have to cut through the forest of complications, and you have to carve a path to success that's different from the normal path. You might get to success faster than the others that are on the easy route. And even if it takes you longer to get to success than those that are on the easier route, you actually have a more stable route. But because you're flagshipping this direction, you have less people on this path. And the naysayers that don't want you to succeed in an unorthodox fashion are going to be the ones that are going to reinforce to you that you can't do what you constitutionally can, at least here in America. So you need to think about what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do in whatever country you're watching a show from, and then what you want to do versus what you're not legally allowed to do in that country. Then how do you accomplish what you want to do without breaking any laws in your country? And who all do you have to recruit into your operation so that you can be more successful with less effort? Michael says if you don't play the game of life and haven't skinned your knees at least once, you will never get ahead. You ain't lying. You didn't have got thrown out on your ass at least once. Most folks who got a good job hasn't gotten fired in their life at least twice. You know what I mean? Taking opportunities or learning learns stepping stones in life. Yeah, take the road less traveled. Yes, that is exactly correct. So while tonight we're going to be talking about Bengals, which is a different location. And Michael, if you look at Bengals, Bengals is right below, um, if I remember correctly, right below Bangladesh, where it's not even really considered too much of a country, more like a small state. Either way, though, it is one of those countries that is widely developing and vastly growing, and it's very affordable with a larger opportunity for financial success for foreign investors that want to either move to that country and start up a new life while investing, or if they just want to go over there and put their money there. So when you think about global economic hotspots, not too many people think about anything other than picturing the glittering skylines of Dubai or the bustling ports of Singapore or the tech campuses of Silicon Valley in the United States. And for decades, these have been the epicenters of wealth and power. Nobody considers anything else. But the world's economic center of gravity is shifting. And it's not happening in the desert or a uh, manicured tech lab. It's unfolding across vast, turbulent, and historically overlooked expanses of water. So here is where Bay of Bengals comes into play. And for centuries, this was a backdrop to history, a maritime stage for empires and trade, but it was rarely the star of the show. It was a region of immense potential, but also profound challenges. A place more associated with cyclones and poverty than with staggering economic growth. But that's changing. Special shout out to Bangladesh. That is changing. And oh, special shout out to Kazakhstan. Special shout out to Rwanda. We've been covering some countries now. Y'all got to understand. And it's changing faster than anyone could have imagined. Right now, a modern day gold rush is underway. Billions upon billions of dollars are pouring into the countries that line its shores. A construction frenzy is creating some of the largest and most ambitious infrastructure projects on the planet. And behind it all, a geopolitical great game is unfolding. Quiet but intense battle for influence that will reshape the strategic map of the 21st century. And this isn't just about building a few ports in a new location. This is about rewiring global trade routes, unlocking vast untapped resources, and determining which superpower will dominate the future of the Indo Pacific. So, what happens here in Bay of Bengals will affect everything from the price of the goods that you buy to the balance of global power. And we're about to show you the untapped resources, the massive mega projects, and the high stakes power plays that are turning these waters into the world's next economic battleground. It is southeast of Asia. Yeah, below Bangladesh. So if you look on a map and you see India, Bangladesh, Bay of Bengals. Yep. And then next week, we're going to be talking about over here, Myanmar. Because remember, we covered the show when we covered Bangladesh. Bangladesh is surrounded by land borders, but somebody has the seaport. So we got to cover that country too. There's at least 200 well known countries around the world. And then other areas that are not quite considered countries that are also areas that have developed land masses that have decent sized populations and are controlled with geopolitical powers. So we're going to cover just about everybody as much as possible. It says Bangladesh is also referred to as Bengals. Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to make clear. Bangladesh above Bengals because Bengals, you look at how it's spelled. Bengals and Bangladesh are about what and what here with the pronunciation and spelling. But um, Bay of Bengals would be the area below Bangladesh that is near the bay, which is where they would get the name from, is near the body of water. But Bay of Bengals is its own set of, it's like a state inside of the United States, like the city of New York inside of the state of New York, inside of the United States. Bay of Bengals is like the New York of Bangladesh, but it's a whole nother like state, not quite country kind of thing. Because you got to remember what we define as a country is a place that can hold its borders in war. A state can hold its borders against another state in war, but not necessarily hold its borders against another country in war. So Bay of Bengals would be closer to the design of a state, less of a design of a country. Wow, that is changing. The fact is that with such a small population, it might have a decent police force to deal with some of the crime that happens there. It doesn't necessarily have its own army that would be able to conquer, say, India or something like that. That's not the case. If India was to go after Bay of Bengals, Bay of Bengals would be New India. So, to really get why we're talking about the transformation in Bay of Bengals and why it's such a big deal, we need to look back at why the Bay of Bengals was left behind in the first place. Why did this strategically positioned body of water connecting the economic engines of South and Southeast Asia become a strategic and economic afterthought? The answer is a tangled legacy of history, geography, and politics. For centuries, the Bay was a vibrant center of exchange. Mariners and merchants from India, Arabia, and China crisscrossed these waters, trading spices, textiles, and ideas. But the colonial era fractured this integrated maritime world where European powers carved up the region, drawing lines on the map that served their own interests, disrupting age old trade networks and turning the bay into a uh, um, past empire, of afterthought of an empire. Periphery is what they're calling it. That's interesting. It's like Hong Kong. Yeah, like Hong Kong, which technically could be its own country, but it's technically not a country. It's technically like a state. It's almost like it's a little less authoritative than Thailand, where they consider Thailand part of China, but Thailand is a standalone in its own country kind of thing. But Bay of Bengals is a little less authoritative than Thailand. Yeah, or Taiwan, actually, not Thailand, Taiwan. So notice like Taiwan is considered part of China, but Taiwan considers itself its own country. So that type of understanding, which is it's weird, and that's why I was like, I know that there's more than 200 places to go in this world, but when you research how many officially respected countries exist, most statistics show that there's about 200. Well, what's all of the other places? Well, they're not quite countries, but they are independently run state level authorities that are self-governed, uh, but not necessarily able to withstand a territorial overthrow from another country. Very historical place. It really makes me want, once we blow up, especially when we cross over like a million subscribers. I feel like going to all of these countries is a good place to do. So, that's on my bucket list in like 5 or 10 years, is to once a week go to a different country around the world. Because I mean, if I did once a month, 200 countries would be the rest of my life. I wouldn't get to all of them. But technically, it would be cheaper just to go like once a month, because you fly in on the first, fly out on the 31st, flying into the next country, and do a live podcast from a new country. But I mean, if the money is right and the money is flowing like that, then yeah, I could travel the world like The Rock, talking about, so finally, Xander is back. Marco Polo. So when independence came in the mid 20th century, the region didn't just snap back together. It became a mosaic of new, often fragile nations, each grappling with its own immense challenges. India, the region's giant, was largely focused inward. Its economy protected, and its strategic gaze fixed on land borders with Pakistan and China. To its east, Myanmar, which we're going to be talking about next week, and then Burma, which we're going to be talking about the week after that, retreated into decades of self imposed isolation, effectively sealing off a critical land bridge between South and Southeast Asia. Bangladesh, born from a brutal war of independence in 1971, faced the monumental task of national building amidst extreme poverty and reoccurring national disasters. The result was a region defined by what is lacked instead of what it made, and there was no shared economic vision, no integrated infrastructures, and very little trust between the countries. The great highways of global maritime trade, the super uh, arteries carrying oil from the Middle East and goods from China, largely bypassed the Bay of Bengals. Ships sailed far to its south through the Strait of Malacca, leaving the bay's ports and minor stops, not major hubs. Geopolitically, it was a vacuum. Economically, it was a sleeping giant. The treasure chest of the bay was firmly locked until now. So, what flipped the switch? Well, three powerful forces have converged at once, and neither one of them is Trump or Elon Musk. Before you think that's what happened. And they're going to be turning the key on the region's future. The first one is the sheer, undeniable discovery of what lies beneath the waves. He says, you only live once, go for it. If we can afford it, we go for it. Because remember, you're supposed to be living a life at 30% of the quantity of capital that you bring in. So if you're spending uh, $200 a week on plane tickets in Asia. Well, first of all, we got a little bit of a benefit if we fly to Asia from America, because a lot of areas in Asia is not going to charge you for plane tickets. So once you get there, you might be able to fly a lot more often for free. You also have to consider though the cost of hotels. So depending on where you're going, you might be spending, since their hotels are going to be cheaper, you might be spending $50 a night for a hotel. And every week you're in a different country. So you're going to have to pack light. You're not going to be able to bring 30, 40 luggages. You're going to have to bring one duffel bag with you and then buy clothes and throw clothes away as you travel to because you're going to be carrying this shit around for the week until you catch your next flight out of the country. Likewise, you got to have a little bit of extra spending money to eat out because it's not like you're going to be able to camp somewhere and cook food. So you're going to be spending a lot more money on eating out, which means that your standard of living might be slightly higher than the budgeted native because you're on the go every week. But if that's the life that you live, go for it. YOLO, right? Touch down on just about every country that you can touch down. If I can cover more countries than Speed did, special shout out to Speed. If I could cover more countries than Speed and get my ass whooped in the Royal Rumble, then I could check that off the box. Unlike Speed running out to the Royal Rumble, on my to do list is to be in one of those promo conversations in the middle of the ring in WWE. That's like one of the things that I want to do. He says, your head may be in the clouds, but your body is still on earth. Well, in order for you to have a goal in life, your head is not supposed to just be in the clouds. It's supposed to be out in space. And then while you maintain yourself grounded on earth, you're supposed to be able to try to figure out how do you get to space. That's where NASA came from. Somebody, somewhere, either high on shrooms or drunk off of ale, thought I could touch the moon. Somebody else said, no, you can't. First person said, yes, I will, and I'll prove it. That's where freaking space travel started. And over the generations, each person that proves more and more closely that we can get to the moon, that we can get to the stars, that we can get to the next galaxy. Next thing you know, we're going to have a generation of folks proving Star Trek is real by making the next or the first intergalactic spaceship that will transport the human race to another planet. All it takes is for somebody to say, I want to do that. It can be done. I just got to figure out how. Because with the billions of dollars that Elon Musk and Donald Trump have, if they really wanted to, they could build a multi-billion-dollar spaceship, not a massive one like Star Trek that could hold like 200,000 people, but they definitely could make the kind of ship that could probably hold 50 to 100 people that could be a long distance traveling ship. It just really depends on if they're willing to put all their money towards something like that. So when you think about traveling the world, there's a lot of individuals who have enough money to travel the world. They don't necessarily all have the capabilities of touching down on every country around the world. However, you do have the capabilities of touching down on some of the countries in the world. They don't necessarily have to have a place to stay in the United States and whatever income that they have. They just touch down and go to every different country around the world and live there for a little bit and keep going. You when you have a household foundation, especially in the United States, where that standard of living has to be paid for regardless of where you go, and then you still have to travel the world at the same time. You're looking at two standards of living that you have to pay for at the same time, which requires a heightened level of income that needs to be generated. So the question is not just head in the clouds. The question is, what do I got to do to afford that? And then make that my 20-year plan. So international investing, massive podcast, followership, which actually would benefit because if I'm a household name in countries all over the world because they've been watching the show for a long time, when I touch down in their country, they might actually give me a free place to stay just so that I can put their location on the map, promote their restaurant, promote their hotel stay or something to that effect, which actually makes it a lot easier to get around because the cost of living would be reduced by the branding of the image and promotional agreements. And that's how you cover the cost. So it stops becoming an unrational and illogical decision and actually starts becoming a plan of action. You just got to put forth the effort to get there. Now, I might not cover all 200 countries in the span of my life, but if I can cover 5 or 10, I did a good job. So when it comes down to Bay of Bengals, the first driver of the new gold rush is a rush for actual resources. For decades, the true wealth of Bay of Bengals was a matter of geological speculation. Today, thanks to new technology, that speculation is turning into tangible assets. The Bay of Bengal is quite literally a treasure map, and investors are finally learning how to read it. The most explosive piece of this map is buried deep beneath the seabed, oils and natural gases. Significant deposits have been identified in the deep waters offshore from the Godvaria and Mahandi deltas in India's east coast. And these aren't small fields, they are vast, previously inaccessible hydrocarbon systems. And for energy hungry nations like India and Bangladesh, developing these domestic reserves isn't just an economic opportunity, it's a matter of national security. Michael says, or after 120 years having your teeth knocked out, the hockey mask was invented. Well, after 120 years of getting your teeth knocked out, somebody said, there's got to be a way to keep my teeth from being knocked out. Actually, I believe that the first thing that happened was people getting hit in the head and getting concussions and dying. And somebody said there's got to be a way that you can protect your head and not die. That's when they came with the open face mask. Then somebody said there's got to be a way to protect your mouth. And then they came up with the closed face mask. And then they were like, wait, it's not enough because the puck goes through the mask and still knocks your teeth out. And that's when this guy said, let's do a different kind of mask that prevents the hockey puck from going through the mask and getting into your grill. Because if you think about the big space in a football helmet versus the smaller spacing in a hockey helmet, they almost have the same design. It's just one a hockey puck can fit through and the other cannot. Mm. But again, it comes from somebody deciding change is needed. And what do we got to do to get there? The wealth of this oil that we're talking about isn't just oil and gas. The seabed and coastlines are rich and valuable in minerals. Off the coast of Sri Lanka, there are significant uh, placers, deposits of titanium, which actually is very, very inventive because we're using a lot of titanium in our fintech and cell phones and other such solar powered, all kind of stuff all over the place. That's going to be one that you really want to get your money on. He said, join the Navy and see the world and get the GI Bill. I mean, I I could join the Navy, but the one objection that I have with joining the Navy is I would have to do what I'm told. And the part of being a owner, not an earner, is that I give instructions. I don't take instructions. So joining the Navy would be counterproductive to my ability to lead as opposed to follow. Not to mention treason for divine direct orders. Not to mention, I can't go live whenever I want to on my podcast because some locations are off the grid and classified, which would be counterproductive to the growth of my followership. But it is a good idea for other individuals who want to travel the world and get a pension from that at the same time. They can join the Navy, they can join the Marines, and they can find themselves doing 4-year tours in different places around the world. Where again, you might cover 5 or 7 different countries in the course of your life before you retire, and still be able to do that and get a bunch of money back at the same time for going out there, which is again the cost of doing business. So, like I said, if I could cover 5 countries in my life, not including the country I was born in, I did good. So, even if I went to a different country once a year for 5 years, 6 years from now, I would still be able to say I have traveled across the world. But if you get citizenship in other countries, like you cannot go to North Korea with a US passport from the United States. But if you get dual citizenship in a country that is not the enemy of North Korea, then you can go to North Korea from a different country and still be able to do what you need to do out there without getting shot up. I wouldn't really go to North Korea. I would spend more time in South Korea. But my point is, these are the perks of traveling the world. So if you went out there on a 1-year business visa, work visa, and you went out to a different country, you got your citizenship in that country, you established an extra source of income, you've got your standing income that's automated from the United States, you've got an accountant filing your taxes for you, so you don't got to pay attention to that no more. Now you can focus on starting up businesses in other countries. With a citizenship from a different country other than the United States, you can travel to countries that you would not be able to travel to directly from the United States, not only invest in that country, but also live in that country, even if it is just for a year. And if I spent 20 years between 50 and 70 traveling to 20 different countries, building generational wealth, any children that I have would have 20 plus different countries of income that they could live off of. And any type of income that has housing in that country, my child would be able to just hop a plane with no luggage and go to whatever country I was once in, follow in her father's footsteps, and just collect money. Almost like when you beat San Andreas, the GTA San Andreas, and there's nothing else to do but travel the map and collect money from all of the places you conquered. That's exactly what would happen. My legacy would be traveling the world, collecting money from all of the places that I conquered, all of the places that I established a business. Like bees, most follow instructions to get to the honey, while some change courses, but that is necessary, or bees would run out of food source. That is true. You also understand that, like ants, some leave the colony and start up colonies in other locations. Like roaches, some spread out a lot further. Like cats, you got to roam the neighborhood and see what else is out there. So when there's only one source of resources, you have to follow instructions to get your access to the resources. But if a bee knew that there was honey accessible in another tree, they don't have to stay in the one hive. They can always go to another hive and get their resources from another hive. It will require negotiations, but it does not require you to exclusively submit to the authority of one bee or one queen bee. Is that he's like a puppy with his eyes just opening, like Simba from the Lion King. Now, along India's coast are beaches, that are laced with heavy mineral sands containing uh, element, garnet, and zircon, all critical inputs for industries from ceramics to aerospace, which Elon's going to love. Even more tantalizing is the confirmed presence of rare earth elements and geopolitical game changers. So, just off the shore of this place, it is literally considered a gold mine because these precious minerals that are in high demand were unknowingly just hanging out right here in this location, unable to be mined, unable to be extracted. And the most significant source of wealth here isn't drilled or mined, but it's fished. The bay is one of the world's most productive marine ecosystems, producing over 7% of the global marine catch. This translates to a multi billion dollar industry and the livelihood of millions, which means that you don't necessarily have to go over there and buy a, a drilling company or build a mining facility. You can actually go out there and invest in a port that invest in fishermen that go out there and sweep the coast of all the fish out of the coast, which again, you would not have to get your hands dirty. You would just be putting your money down in mass quantity and getting paid massive quantities of dividends on the back end. It for every investment that you can get all of your money back inside of 2 to 5 years, you're looking at a massive investment with high rewards. And you're able to live off of that success for generations. He said they would buy the plane. Well, you're not trying to buy a plane in this situation. You're trying to buy all the yachts. You're trying to buy all the ships. you're trying to have your own cruise ship. You're trying to have a cruise line that's got your name on. Could you imagine in between Carnival and I can't think of the other cruise line because they're not that important. Uh, the international cruise ship. If this and that podcast was its own cruise ship, that's when you're really doing it big. People who jump onto the ship just to be on a live podcast, that would be they're paying to get on this boat just to be on a live podcast. That would be the way this mining operation is supposed to be. It is better than gold. Even though gold is doing good right now, it would be better than gold because precious minerals are highly sought after, and the people who don't have access to them will pay the cost to get it here. Beyond these conventional resources, a new blue economy is creating a wave of unorthodox investment opportunities. Now, here on this and that, when we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we don't just talk about the things that everybody knows about. We also dig deeper into the things that not too many people are aware of so that you can go do your own research on it and go find out something new because there's always another way. You just got to know how to look for it. So the wide, shallow continental shelf and consistent wind patterns are making the bay an ideal location for a massive build out of offshore wind farms, which we were talking about in Bangladesh. Well, yeah, it'll be good for tourists. Build me a cruise ship that is a tourist attraction, of course. But I would have to do like an international cruise ship where you get on my boat and we go to another country. That's 20 days on this boat. We're going somewhere, y'all. We ain't coming back to the same port, so you better pay for extended stay for your car or get dropped off by an Uber. But we talked about this offshore build out of solar power because Bangladesh, for example, has set a target of generating 5 gigawatts from wind power by 2030. We talked about this a while back, and is already undertaking feasibility studies for 26 offshore blocks. Now, remember, Bangladesh is surrounded by land. So, for Bangladesh to go off the shore of Bay of Bengals gets a cut out of Bangladesh getting power off the coast. In July of 2023, Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners submitted a proposal for a 500 megawatt offshore wind project in Bangladesh, the country's first. Then there's a bargaining field of sustainable uh, aquaculture. And as wild fishing stocks face pressure, investors are pouring money into advanced fish and prawn farming, meaning that they're going to be developing locations in the water where they will contain large quantities of fish and prawn that will allow them to be able to more easily extract more fish and prawn for the sale in that 7% of the market that they control. And this includes innovations like integrated multi tropic aquaculture, or IMTA, which is a system where the waste from one species becomes food for another, creating a more sustainable and profitable ecosystem. Dutch and Bangladeshi firms have already launched a €6 million partnership to develop this particular sector. Perhaps the most futuristic opportunity lies in marine biotechnology. So you can invest in that as well. The Bay's unique biodiversity is a gold mine for scientists searching for new marine derived pharmaceuticals, enzymes for industrial use, so that, like we talked about yesterday, you don't have to worry about the Tylenol with the acetaminophen because they're figuring out other ways in other countries. And even focusing on developing biofuels from algae. Look. So it went down, what, $500? Because last time we talked about gold, it was like 42 to 4,700, and now it's at 3,700. So it's kind of like depreciating a little bit. And likewise, it's going to start depreciating a little bit because those individuals that are going to sell off to buy back into the stabilizing economy is going to cause the value of gold to kind of sink a little bit. Underwater hotels is a fantastic idea. You know how many people who can't swim, who are terrified of drowning, would pay millions of dollars to live in an apartment underneath a shark? I don't know what it is, but for the thrill of saying that they live underwater, they will pay extra money to be in a hotel or an apartment below sea level. That's a tough nut to crack, because in order for it to really be meaningful, you would have to make the walls out of some type of really sturdy glass so that people can see outside and really get the feel like they should be drowning, but they're not. Otherwise, it's just a very heavy room to be in because the pressure below sea level starts changing the further down you go. And then you see all of those millionaires that are like big ass walls of fish behind them, floors with fish below them. You can imagine that they would have no problem with living in an apartment surrounded by fish with gold chains and diamond studded scales. Just Got an octopus with a tattoo of a human on it. Talking about shark life. Finally, there's an emerging market for blue carbon. Investors are now looking at projects to restore and protect the region's vast mangrove forests, like the Sundarbans. I had to make sure I was saying that right. These ecosystems are incredibly efficient at capturing and storing carbon. And by funding their preservation, investors can earn valuable carbon credits to sell on the global market. This staggering bounty, from hydrocarbons to carbon credits, is the foundation of the Bay's gold rush. But resources are worthless if you can't get them to the market. And that brings us to the second and most visible driver of this transformation: an unprecedented infrastructure revolution. If the resources are the gold, the mega projects are the picks and the shovels of this 21st century gold rush. So, all of these mega projects around the Bay, which are a construction frenzy that by far is going to be decades in the making, is underway to build the arteries of modern commerce. So we're talking about deep sea ports, industrial zones, and new highways and railways that are physically restitching a fragmented region. To understand the sheer scale, we're going to take a tour around the bay, which would have been fantastic if I was already there covering this topic. He said just to stay per night. Oh man, to, I'm thinking if you're talking about an underwater hotel, I'm talking about. He said he never been to an aquarium. Yeah, I've been to an aquarium, but an aquarium is like $20, $50 for like the VIP package. To have an aquarium hotel, for you to be living underwater, you're probably spending $2,000, $3,000 a night. You're probably going to spend more money to live in that hotel underwater than what you would have spent to go through Kazakhstan's jungles or some of those reserves over in Rwanda and Bangladesh, where they would be making tons of money off you spending 3 nights there, where you got to sign waivers because if for some reason the wall breaks, you're dead. You and everybody on that floor. So no throwing stuff, ladies, because if you throw something to put a hole in the wall, the whole room is flooded. Our first stop in this particular situation would be Bangladesh because it's a nation long constrained by geography. Its main ports in Chittagong and Malanga are ravine ports to shallow for the massive vessels of global trade. Yeah, I know that sounded confusing. They have marine ports and they're very shallow, but they're used for global trades. Carbon sunks. Yeah, exactly. Now, that is about to change because the crown jewel of Bangladesh's ambition is the Matara Bari deep seaport. Carbon carbon sunks. I like that one better. Carbon sinks. Well, carbon deposits typically build up on the sea floor and typically arise from fossils, and erosion. So it can rise to the surface. Uh, Carbon elements, I was actually teaching a student about the carbon cycle, and carbon elements in the water can rise to the surface of the water and then evaporate into the atmosphere so that the carbon can then come down as precipitation on the livestock where the carbon is absorbed from photosynthesis into the plants where the plants can turn the carbon into oxygen through photosynthesis, where the oxygen is taken in by the animals and the animals emit that carbon. So when the animals breathe, belch, or poop and emit carbon into the atmosphere from that situation, that's when you have some carbon going into the air and some carbon that actually goes into the dirt. When animals die and decay, that carbon goes into the dirt, that carbon sinks, and then any runoff from any carbon exposed to fluids that washes it into the sea will that runoff will have larger deposits of carbon that will sink, but carbon does actually go up just in smaller fragments. So there is science class for you. I told you here on this and that we cover this, that, and everything in between. So remember to hit that subscription button as y'all come through here, like the channel. Now we got to recognize that financed by Japan, Uh, Matarabari is the country's first true deep sea port next to Bangladesh, with a planned draft of 16 meters. It will finally be able to welcome large container ships directly. A contract for the first phase of construction was signed in April of 2025, and initial operations are expected to begin around 2029 or 2030, which is about 5 years from now. This is a monumental leap that will slash shipping times and costs as it is an entire integrated development, including a power plant and robust island connections. These new ports aren't just for containers, they're the gateways for the equipment needed for the offshore wind farms and the export hubs for new aquaculture products. Then let's get into India, where a similar transformation is happening. Along its historical, less developed eastern seaboards, India's Act East policy is being written in concrete and steel, with the state of Odisha emerging as a new maritime powerhouse. In September of 2025, which is this month, a landmark agreement was signed to develop a brand new major port at Badaha. I said that wrong. Bahuda. If y'all from India, say it right for me. Bahuda. A massive undertaking in India with an investment of around $2.6 billion. Bahuda was India's 14th major port, designed to handle giant cape sized vessels. Now, moving northwest to Bengals, the story is one of immense ambition mixed with political drama. The state's ravines, ports, suffers from severe draft limitations. So the solution is the proposed deep sea port at Tajpur, a project with a roughly $3 billion price tag. After a competitive bidding process, India's largest private port operator was awarded the project back in 2022. However, the project ran into political headwinds, and in mid 2025, the state government decided to scrap the deal and invite fresh tenders. He said, It's not funny. You solved the problem 921. Hey, well, I told you we was going to get that taken care of. I told you we was going to get that taken care of. So here, remember we was dealing with the flickering out and everything like that, the drop frames and everything like that. So today, what I did was I actually dropped the visuals down to 420, and because instead of it being at 720 or 1080p, it's at like 420p. So now I have no frame drops, no breakage, and the while the thing does flash up on the screen, it doesn't interrupt the podcast. So we're able to watch the full show with no interruptions. I'm loving that. I told you guys I was going to figure it out eventually. That 921 on the dot was getting on my dang nerves, but it does flash across the screen though. You guys don't get to see it. The other thing I had to do was I had to change out the mics and use the webcam so that we have better visuals, because the integrated camera doesn't have as crisp of color. So I get the HD quality from the camera, even though the StreamYard is doing 420 visuals. Uh, Pluses and minuses, but hey, if this little bitty ass $500 laptop can run this podcast until we can afford that $3,500 laptop, we'll run the podcast. We'll make it do what it do. Now, while the future of who builds the port in Bengals is unclear, the strategic necessity of a deep sea port for Eastern India remains undeniable. Finally, we're going to turn to Myanmar, which we're going to be discussing next week, the geographic heart of the bay. Here, the infrastructure race is a direct reflection of a geopolitical tug of war. First, there is a Kaladadan multi-model transportation project, India's flagship initiative. And this project creates an entirely new route from Kolkata to the newly developed Sitwe port in Myanmar, and then by river a road into northeast India, bypassing the narrow and vulnerable Chicken's Neck corridor. The Sitwe port was inaugurated in May of 2023, and despite immense challenges, India is committed to making it fully operational by 2027. Kaladan is more than a trade route. It is India's strategic bridge to Southeast Asia and a direct answer to its main rival's ambitions. And that rival is China. So look at how we just covered four countries today. And we're almost there, but we've covered four countries today. And the fact that I'm from Bengal. Special shout out to Bengals. Special shout out to Rooterist. Y'all should go to his channel and play chess with him. This guy is fantastic. He is definitely pro status. Did you work out the situation with your girlfriend? Is that still being mediated? Hopefully everything worked itself out. You just gotta have patience, bro. They they mature faster than boys, but they still are very childish. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm always here for you, brother. This is what we do. This is what we do. We help you guys become higher value men, help you guys find better places to go. Now that I think about it, Danny Steffens in Romania, special shout out to him. Special shout out to she broke up. Mm, well, it's the first one. It's not going to be the last. Special shout out to Brazil. We got a couple guys that came from Brazil, so we're going to be touching base with a lot of different countries around the world. And this is one of the reasons why we do it, because we want to make sure that Everybody get their props. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say that, we got to get in here. We got to learn from each other. We got to grow from each other. And while we can't control every scenario that does happen, we can control what we do and how we do it. But also in those situations where we're not really satisfied, I tell you, evaluate your situation. If this is not what you want, you have to make the changes that best benefits you. Sometimes that means leaving behind people that you wanted to carry with you for the rest of your life. We're in a different era. You don't find somebody in middle school and carry him with you to your deathbed at 70. You find somebody usually in your 40s as a man, and you might be able to carry her with you till you're 70. Yeah, I told you she's going crazy, but I'm not sad, but kind of. Well, I mean, it kind of bothers you a little bit, but it's not, it's strange. There- There's not much that you can do about it. I understand that um, if the women start going through your phone, clearly the relationship is already over. There's insecurities there. And when they're searching your phone, they're trying to find a problem so that they can use that problem as a reason to break up. And when that happens, you really just need to pull all the cards out on the table and be like, look, bro, I ain't got nothing. I got nothing to hide, but I also don't need you to be violating my privacy in order for you to validate whatever insecurities that you have. And usually, like I told you when this first came up, was if in the event that she was cheating, her guilty conscience, because she didn't get caught, would lead her to believe that you would be cheating too because she was cheating. Because you in a relationship, you can only trust your partner to do what you would have done in the exact same situation. So if she would misbehave in a certain situation, she would assume that you would misbehave if you had the same opportunity. So now that her guilty conscience, because she didn't get caught, would cause her to look to see if you behaved the same way she behaved. Every day that she finds out that you didn't, her guilty conscience weighs heavily on her because she feels bad that she did wrong to a good man. But she doesn't change her position. She doesn't apologize for it. And if she doesn't get pregnant because of it, she never says anything about it. You're going to get tired of being treated like a villain, and you're either going to walk away from the situation or get to the bottom of it and then walk away from the situation when you find out that she doesn't trust you because she was unfaithful. But if she would have found that you did something wrong, that's when she would have used that to say, doesn't matter if I was unfaithful, you were unfaithful, and I'm breaking up with you because you were unfaithful, which keeps the spotlight off of her negative behavior. And ladies, I'm going to tell you right now, I got a lot of love for y'all, but real reality, first person accountability. If you screw up, don't go trying to find fault in me. He who is without sin cast the first stone. So if you screwed up, you the last person to complain about anything that's going on in this relationship. Is that if she is seeing my chest messages as "Hi, how are you?" and "I love you" comments, that seriously I can't do anything. But that's the point. On your podcast, he said, "Becoming sus, Michael, bro. Why is she going crazy?" Well, yeah. Look, if you got a live podcast like I've got a live podcast, what they say to you on your channel. It doesn't matter if you have TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. What somebody else tells you on your Instagram or your Snapchat, you can't control that. It is what you say back. And that's one of the biggest problems that I have had with women sleuthing is that they will condemn you because you received a message from somebody else that was flirtatious or enticing in some manner. It does not matter that you did not respond to it. It does not matter that you did not reject the invitation. What matters is you received it. But really and truly, in that situation, he said, "Why you stay with her?" He didn't. He broke up with her. He didn't. As soon as she started acting wild, that was it. But that's my point. When you receive information from somebody else and that situation goes south because you're receiving information from someone else and you stop talking to them, your partner should not be questioning the other person's behavior. If you are flirting with somebody else on your platform, if you are flirting with somebody else on your social media kicks, then she can get you for what you said. But women have this bad habit because they know that if another person is flirting with you, you now have more options to drop that person and get the new person that's flirting with you. And that insecurity, before they allow you to leave them for somebody quote unquote better in their mind, they will devalue you as a person to prevent you from exploring new options. Now you're not allowed to talk to anybody else. So you don't ever realize that there is somebody else better out there. I want my female to be out there talking to other people, making money, make money for me. So if she out there closing deals with grown ass men, she need to be closing deals with grown ass men. I should not be insecure because a man called so that she can make me some money, as long as she's behaving appropriately with that. At the end of the day, if she is out there not acting right, then she is out there not acting right. I am only going to be out there doing better. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do in that situation. There's nothing you can do in that situation. Because in order for you to satisfy her guilty conscience, her insecurities, you would have to unlock your phone and give her the ability to troll through all of your search history, all of your social media profiles, all of your communication logs with every person that contacts you so that she can verify that you're not doing anything wrong. But let me ask you, how many convicts that are on the sex offenders list got the FBI searching their cell phone to make sure that they're not misbehaving? Not many. You got to turn yourself in, get the drug test once a month, stay out of trouble, don't be seen near a school. If felons do not have the government searching their personal content to see what they've been up to over the past 24 hours, your girlfriend should not be doing the same, because you are not a criminal. You have done nothing wrong. You are not unfaithful. You didn't even ask her out. She asked you out. That's the worst part. She asked you out. You accepted the offer and brought it to your family's attention. She should appreciate the fact that you gave her the time of day, but she didn't. And you're worth more than that. So as a result, instead of dealing with the headache and the stress, let them go. It doesn't matter if she walked away because you wouldn't let her look through her phone, or you walk away because you don't want her looking through your phone. You need to be in a relationship with a person that values you enough to trust and believe without having to investigate that you will not do anything to negatively impact your relationship with her. That's going to be the same thing as a marriage. He said she's pregnant. You never know. Could be. But if it is, it's for another man. That's why she's treating him dirty. When they start acting wild, I ain't got no time. Is it nah, bro? Nah, I'm 15. Come on, it ain't doing that. No, really, it don't. When you start talking to girls, it doesn't matter how young you are. When you start talking to girls, it is the exact same dynamic. Whether you're 15, 25, 45, 55, it is the exact same dynamic because you are a man. Men are going to get treated the same way from 15 to 40. You're going to be something to do until you are financially stable in your 40s. Then you are going to be a source of security. So between 15 and 25, you're going to have more girls that are going to think that you're attractive. They're going to hang out with you at your expense. You guys might have fun romping around in the sheets and stuff like that at your expense because you're attractive and they're being taken care of by their parents. When they don't have a financial need, you do not have a financial obligation. So between 15 and 25, maybe even between 15 and 30, as long as you're dating the girls that are over the age of 18, and if your country has a younger age limit, then you might be able to go a little bit lower. You are capable of having a good time with irresponsible women that do not have financial responsibility. So you don't have a responsibility besides the entertainment that you're providing to them. However, the older they get, the more financial responsibility they have, you will learn that women will make that financial responsibility part of the deal breaking requirements, where if you're not willing to pay that cost, she's not even going to get you the opportunity to get to know her. And a lot of men don't realize that she's not worth that out the gate. She can earn that right after showing you her value in your life, but she is not worth that out the gate. You don't know her last name. You don't know if she's really who she says she is, and yet you're paying the cost for her to like you, not getting to know who she is to find out if you even like her, and that's always a big issue. He said, "Thought you weren't much older thought you were much older, just 15. Nah, Michael, I told you. Him, TF Fireball, Max the Poser, I think is CBJX, I think it is. So there's a couple of them. Nico, there's a couple of them that come here. Very mature individuals that come onto the podcast, but they're not quite of the age of 18. And they come to this podcast and they learn something new. They come here because this is an intellectual podcast. We're not about that bullshit. So that's why we got to try to keep it clean for them, because we never know when they're on until we hear them in the comment section. He said, but at least she told you will be a very successful person in your life, but a virgin. What the fuck? I was sitting over here looking at the compliment at first, but no. Usually when a there's this thing where females are less likely to compliment you without giving you a dig. So she's going to hit you with the, oh, you're going to be very successful, but you're going to be a virgin. Bro, that's a lie. If you're successful, you don't even remember what being a virgin feels like, because women chase successful men. You will have more women that you can knock off of you. Think of the athletes that have to get private security to keep women off of them so that they don't get flagged for being pregnant with the girl's baby. When you're successful, everybody wants you. If you was broke and you wasn't shit, then you might stay a virgin, because don't no woman want a broke man. There is no woman in any country around the world that would prefer to be broke and struggling with a man when she could be not struggling with a different man, or not struggling by herself. Let your hormones out or rap and tag it. You got to rap tag it and set it on fire, bro, because you don't want them to get a hand on it. Just be responsible and show respect. You got to show responsibility and show respect to yourself first before you start holding other people to the level of mutual respect that you're going to provide to other people. You change your language. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why here on this and that, we talk about this, that, and everything in between. We talk about ways to improve your money Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we talk about how to improve your personal life Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Because when you change the way you think about how this should work for you, then you change how you hold people to your non negotiable expectations for behavior. And when you start holding people to non negotiable expectations for behavior, you less often invest money in less valuable people, and you more often hold them to a level of expectations so that they can stay there long enough to receive something from you. He said, nah, I'm not changing my language for her. You don't have to change your language for her. You don't change your language, you add another one. You add multiple languages to your repertoire to help you become more successful. It ain't got nothing to do with her. She can kick rocks. You do it for yourself. When you make changes in life, you make changes for yourself to improve your standard of living, to improve your expectations, to improve your satisfaction. And if you find somebody that will benefit from your success with you while they benefit you, then that extra language comes in handy. But Bangladesh speaks English, so you don't really need too many more languages under your belt, because English is the geopolitical dominant language around the world. Most people in Asia learn English so that they can stay competitive to America. He said, not asking you, not asking for you to change for her, but for yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but again, Bangladesh speaks English. So if you learned a different language, like what is it, Tanglog for Thailand, or if you speak one of the various languages of Mandarin in China, Taiwan, Japan, or Korea, if you're speaking those languages, It helps you with negotiations and business. Even if you, as an avid chess player on social media, were to travel to different countries to hold a conversation during your live chess game, you might have to speak a different language to talk to your competitor, to talk to your opponent. It ain't got nothing to do with her, but if you benefit from it because you find a girl in a different country that speaks the language that you learned, hey, I know English and Spanish, but if I learn Japanese and then I go and find me a Japanese woman, hey, I didn't get it for her, but because I had it, I was able to benefit from it and get her. Is that, bro? She's messaging me. Did you forget me? Really? Oh. This is another push and pull method that women do. They'll break up with you impulsively because they're disappointed in the fact that they didn't get what they wanted. Then they reach out to you to see if they still got a foot in the door so that they can come back. This usually happens when they thought breaking up with you would negatively impact you in a fashion where you would come crawling back, begging for them, which gives them control. And once they take control, now you will allow her to do what she wanted to do in a relationship when you said no the first time. To get her to come back, you're going to fold and say yes. In this situation, bro, she asked, "Did you forget me?" My response is, "Who are you again? I don't recognize this number." And that's if I respond, because truthfully, once she broke up with me, I would have blocked her number. We wouldn't talk no more. So if we didn't see each other in class, where she comes sit next to me and I get up and move, we wouldn't talk no more. Is it that why you dress the way you handle yourself and your language counts? That's exactly, which is why you always see me on the show in a suit, some kind of way. I'm never here with a throwback T-shirt on. I ain't never here with a wife beater or nothing like that. 15, knowledge is power and money is muscle. And you can only talk so much talk. You got to show what you can do. And usually what you can do comes with a dollar price. You come here and you're an adult. You at this podcast, you walk off a man. I'm gonna teach you what you need to know to make better decisions. He said, I'm never saying, yeah, I would never tell her. I wouldn't even acknowledge her existence no more. She didn't tried your intelligence. At this point, she is a stepping stone in progress. You're going to understand that each relationship you get into, they always come crawling back. They always circle back to see if you are better off without them. Typically, because they left you out of their own insecurity, not because you did something wrong. And then what's going to happen is they're going to see how much you improve. And they say that old saying, success is the best revenge. Instead of bad mouthing them and dragging them through the mud and fussing and cussing and holding stress against them, you dismiss them out of your mind. Let it go. I forgive you for your flaws in your decision making, and I'm going to move on with my life. You don't bother me. And I'm going to make myself the best self that I can be. Then, when you do circle back and come and see how well I've become, I'm not even going to give you an autograph. I'm going to keep on doing what I do. He said, he said, and I will treat you as an adult. Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. He said, I know girls are waiting to be my girlfriend. I just blocked her. That's exactly what you need to do. You just block her. But now with the future girls that you're talking to, you want to make sure that as a criteria of the relationship, they have to understand that you are an active podcaster. You do have people that do comment on your channel. And while you don't condone their comments, those comments that come from the other person should not negatively impact your relationship, because what is the most important thing in your relationship is how you respond to the content. Because as a content creator, they can say whatever they want to say. And if you delete it, she's going to swear to God, you're hiding something from me. If you leave it up there, she's going to complain about the fact that it came in. You're not even attacking the messenger, you're attacking the receiver of the messenger. At the end of the day, I ain't got no control over the mail that hit my doorstep, but I can control whether or not I respond to it. I am supposed to be held accountable for the stuff that is inside of my control. And with text messages, I can't return to sender a love letter, a heart. I can't return to sender a photo. The only thing I can do is either delete it or block the number. That's it. So knowing that you're an active podcaster, when you start talking to girls going forward, you make sure that they understand that, especially if that's your primary source of income. You just let them know I do this on a regular basis. First and foremost, I don't feel comfortable with sharing my electronic devices to my partner for them to go through them to check if I'm being loyal. If you don't trust me, we can just break up, but I am not going to misbehave on these channels. But if any event that you do come across a message where I'm on the podcast and you see some comments, or I'm on my phone and you see some comments, you need to pay more attention to what I said in response to that comment, if I even say anything, not paying attention to the fact that I received it, because I don't control what these people say. And the more followers you have, the more comments you get. I got some women in Bangladesh, matter of fact, right now. Oh, I love you. I love your content, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate that because I gave you a bunch of stocks last month that helped you make some money. You don't actually love me. You love the advice that I gave you. But because you said it in the fashion of you love me, well, my girlfriend might feel uncomfortable about that. No, ma'am. You should not worry about that. You want women to love me so that they can invest in my podcast so that you can get the check. That's what you because the closest they're gonna get to me is this live stream. Like I said, it's stop chasing them girls. Girls like confidence and appearance. Well, they do like confidence because they don't want you to feel desperate, but they also, more importantly, like your financial stability. So when you start, the older you get, you start looking for women that want you for who you are, not how much you have. You're going to start having more and more problems with finding the right one. So, not flashing your money. Don't worry, I'll get it. Oh, I'll pay for it. I'll take care of you. Not doing that prevents them from looking at how much you're willing to spend and thinking to themselves, I can deal with this type of lifestyle, thinking about all the stuff they don't have to pay. I'll get the door for you. I'll pull out the chair for you. I'll stand here while you get your own cab. Shows that I will be present for you, but I'm not going to spend a fucking dollar on you. And that's when she has to determine, does she want to roll that role with you, even though you're not paying for nothing? He said, no, I'm not chasing girls. I'm too busy with all school and tournaments and stuff. And that's going to be another thing because as a tournament, when you win one of those grand prizes, you're going to be standing there with this big ass check, and she's going to be sitting over there thinking to you, oh, let's go celebrate. Sure, at your expense, take me out and show your appreciation for my success. I'm not cashing a check until next week. Yeah, exactly. If this is I love you works like a serious Matt, what you kind of idiot. Feel good now breaking up. Yeah, exactly. 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 Because it makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. I gave Steven a very positive financial stock option in August, at the 1st of August. He made thousands off of that. All the females I got like 35% of this podcast is females because I just talked about how you could literally follow the dividend rotation strategy with us and turn $5,000 into 12 and a half, $13,000 in 12 months, where most financial opportunities does not give you 160% return. And that is the craziest part. So once I started telling everybody what y'all can do to invest, the females are flocking in like, oh shit, I can make money here. I can start up a business. I can start up a trust. I can do this. I can do that. And fantastic. Back when I was talking about how the relationship sucks and 70% of the problem is women, women are like, nope, thumbs down. I don't want to hear it. But when you ask yourself, in this situation that you just went through, you weren't the problem. And 70%, 70 to 90% of women break up because they're not satisfied, not because the man is the problem, not because the man did something wrong, just because the woman wasn't satisfied with the outcome compared to her expectations. Don't respond. Yeah, in words I can say I can forget her. But really I cannot. But with time, I would do. Yeah. Well, you're not gonna forget her overnight. You're gonna be thinking about her for the rest of the year. You're gonna be comparing her to the girls that smile at you right now. And then if you've ever heard of Usher's song, "You Remind Me of a Girl I Once Knew," when you compare the next girl to the last girl, where the next girl reminds you of the last girl, that is a red flag. One of the things that I've been telling women on this channel, and I tell men this too, if your type is toxic, where you are attracted to, regardless of whether or not you've experienced it in your childhood or whatever the case may be, if you're attracted to conflict and chaos, disorganization, insecurities, some men have a fix it mentality, and they find themselves attracted to broken women, women that got a lot of problems that need a lot of fixing. And if you realize that that is what you're attracted to, as soon as the characteristics and behavior traits of the person you're talking to today reminds you of somebody that you once dated, stop. You need to find a person that is unfamiliar territory. I'm not used to this. I usually don't date girls like this. I usually don't socialize with people like this, and see where that takes you. Now, because this is the first girl, the next girl should be different. But over the next 5 or 10 years, you might have 10 or 15 encounters, 20 or 30 encounters. And over that time period, you're going to build a rapport. You're going to build some statistical data. And when you build that statistical data, you will be able to look at, if the next girl reminds you of three or four of your other exes, that's a red flag. Is that it sounds you are alive, discomfort, you'll survive. Oh yeah, of course. Exactly. By the way, I am flying to Manchester for a tour and a tournament. How's that? So, congratulations to Rudolphus, because he's going to a tournament in Manchester to play some chess. I'm going to make sure that I try my best to find some information about it. And after every game that you play, make sure that you let me know your success. Hopefully, if they promote it on TV or social media or internet or something like that, I can actually get a couple of glimpses of you playing the game and beating some of those folks out, because you're very good at what you do. You can actually make a living just winning chess tournaments. And if you utilize that to run your podcast, you can live stream your chess tournaments. You can live stream your games. And that would give you more traffic in the chess world, which would give you a lot more of free content. Oh, his rating is better than ours, bro. 2200. He plays chess.com, and he's got what, 1812 on FIDE, so that's two different games. Oh, you're gonna play against him? You're gonna play against him, Michael? You can only get better. You can only get better. He's way better than me, bro. He's way better than me. I think right now I'm in the 700 or 800 range. Letter pay. Oh yeah, of course. I'm in like the 700 or 800 range, something like that. Not that good, bro. If I play on a regular basis with a lot of players, I might make it to the 800s, the 8 or 900s, but I don't see myself getting to the 2000s. I don't see myself doing that. I don't play often enough. I don't learn new strategies and skills often enough, and I prioritize a whole bunch of different other things. And because of that, I don't have the time that is needed to dedicate to getting better. So while I can get better, I don't invest the time and effort to get better. So recreationally, if I make it to 1200, I'm lucky. But at 1200, I'd have a 40% victory rate. Sure, sure. But my dumb ass lost my rating points back to 2080. It happens. Trying to get my mojo back. I have the guy that I've been playing chess with recently. He beat me two or three times over the past week. Was first time in a while, because out of all the games we played, I had almost like a 10 or 15 game winning streak, and then he started beating me. And now it looks like he just goofed on one of the two games that we played, and it might go from being a win to being a draw, where I got my the game because I was distracted by life and taking these turns, and then I was like, shoot, ain't no takebacks. They were here as a sounding board. Exactly, exactly. Oh, back to the main topic. Now, the third and most powerful force driving the Bay of Bengal's transformation is going to be geopolitics. We do got to cover that too. I definitely appreciate you coming. I bet stay and hang out. We're almost done. We got about 20 pages left, which should take me about 10 or 15 minutes to wrap up. Yeah, yeah, we're winning. Oh, yeah, we're winning all the way around because you're going to learn things that you did not know because nobody was there to teach it to you. And I'm learning things along the way so that I can teach it to you. And we're all going to improve ourselves along the way, which is going to make us all more successful. So by the time I make it to a millionaire, the rest of y'all should be millionaires too. He said, yeah, I heard that. My end game has been weak. Really and truly, the a lot of times offensive play is harder to do than defensive play because defensive play allows you to put your pieces in a position that forces your opponent to attack, which allows you to counter if you did it right. And when you counter, your partner, your opponent doesn't always have a follow through. And when your opponent doesn't have a follow through, you end up with more pieces on the board. If you always put yourself in a position where your opponent has to sacrifice a piece in order to make a move, then they're giving away pieces because they got no other choice. If you don't exhaust all of your moves where you have plenty of places to move that won't get you killed, and you're setting up an attack or a defense that forces them to attack, you have more pieces on the board, and then you can ultimately outmaneuver them because every move they make leads to them getting attacked on your turn and them trying to defend on theirs. It's almost like playing checkers. Once you move all of your pieces forward twice, somebody's got to jump somebody because there's no other moves. And if you're doing double jumping and stuff like that, you'll find yourself in a position where you'll take a bunch of pieces. You're never going to walk out of a chess game unless you're a pro status. You're never going to walk out of a chess game with no pieces lost on the board. But you'll find that you will walk your way off of a chess game with more pieces than you thought if you wasn't chasing their pieces across the board trying to conquer certain pieces or running across the board trying to hold on to certain pieces. And that's how you're able to. Every piece is expendable, and like chess, you have to treat your network the same way. Every piece is expendable. Every person in your network is expendable if they do not benefit you. You don't want to hang on to dead weight because that's how you end up losing in life, the same way you lose in a game. He said, good time here always. Remember to like and subscribe. Definitely subscribe, y'all. He's gonna get out there and go get in there. And P.S. If the girl reminds you of your mother, run. And ladies, if the guy reminds you of your father and your father is no longer in your life because he wasn't being a good one, run. Because you got some females with daddy issues more than you got men with mommy issues. Even though 82% of children are raised by the mother, the fact of the matter is that the absence of positive male role models in a woman's life will lead a woman to dating bad men because it is familiar territory. Likewise, the lack of positive women in a man's life will lead a man to dating bad women because that's what he's familiar with. So if you recognize a toxic relationship this time, if you recognize the same toxicity next time, before you become emotionally invested or financially invested, you withdraw. It doesn't feel like rejection if you're retreating from the engagement because you know this doesn't benefit you. It feels like rejection when you're begging for acceptance and they refuse to accept you. That's the difference. So while a no is still going to be a no coming from you doesn't hurt you the way a no coming from someone else does. We don't complain about ghosting other people on social media. We complain about getting ghosted by other people on social media. So be the person that doesn't respond to the text message instead of being the person begging for a response from the other person. Now, in Bengals, the region has become a critical chessboard. in the 21st century, as we just finished talking about chess. It's a great game between Asia's powers, primarily India and China. And this rivalry is throwing gasoline on the development fire, with both nations seeing the Bay as vital to their interests and unlocking unprecedented levels of investments. For years, China has been pursuing its string of pearls strategy, which is a new network of ports and projects across the Indian Ocean to secure its vital sea lines. Bay of Bengals is a crucial link in that chain, and the primary vehicle for it is the Grand Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The most stunning example is the Kayukpyo port in Myanmar, which we're going to be talking about next week. This isn't just another port, it's a strategic masterstroke for Beijing. While the total project is valued at over $7 billion, the initial phase is a more focused $1.3 billion deep water port. Its real significance lies in its connection to twin oil and gas pipelines that run from Kaiyu all the way to China's landlocked Yunnan province. And this gives China a direct energy and trade corridor to the Indian Ocean, completely bypassing the congested and strategically vulnerable Strait of Malacca. The project has faced delays, but in the late 2023 year, the Myanmar junta and China signed new agreements to expedite its development, underlining its critical importance. China's approach, however, has created controversy. In Sri Lanka, the Habantuta port, another BRI project, serves as a cautionary tale. After Sri Lanka struggled to repay China's loan, it was forced to hand over a controlling stake and a 99-year lease to a Chinese state owned company. And this incident fueled accusations of debt trap diplomacy and has made other nations worry. And this weariness has created a major opening for India. He said, if I can set up the pieces right, it becomes like a checkerboard. Well, if you're in a situation where your opponent has a bishop that controls white and you put up all your pieces on black, then you end up avoiding attack. And they can't put the piece in every location, but it can block you from going where you want to go. And then if I can move a queen or a rook to line two, your main goal is to not be dependent on the queen or the rook. Because if you become dependent on a queen or the rook, once your opponent takes out your queen or your rook, that's when you start failing because you don't have any good moves left. You want to be able to utilize, if you utilize your queen and your rooks as backup pieces, as defensive pieces instead of primarily offensive pieces. You will always have your rooks and your queens using your pawns to block the attack on your rooks and your kings, and using your knights and your bishops to offensively attack the opposing king, which then will utilize your rook and your queen as defensive countermeasures, where from across the board you can protect the piece without having to be readily seen directly in the next attack. The difference between having an offensive assault on the front lines and having support or cavalry in the backfield. Not always does the opponent look at the next move across the board. They look at the adjoining pieces within the first two rows of the current attack. So if your piece blocks that piece from the opposite side of the board, protects that piece from the opposite side of the board, sometimes your opponent misses a potential loss from a counterattack. And usually, when you attack a piece that for some reason looks unprotected, you come to find out it was protected from a location that you wasn't paying attention to. So think about that. I teach folks everything under the sun that I learn. I don't know everything about everything, but I know enough about a lot of stuff that I can get by. And I teach everything that I know to everybody who's willing to listen so that you have more coming out of it than what you did going in. I don't have all the answers to all the questions, but I definitely will go try to find out. New Delhi views China's expanding presence in what it has long considered its own backyard with deep suspicion. In response, India has intensified its own outreach, presenting itself as a more sustainable partner. Its primary platform for this is a regional organization that has been dormant for years called BIMSTEC, the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sector Technical and Economic Cooperation. So the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectorial Technical and Economic Corporations, BIMSTEC, includes Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. So we covered Bangladesh. We're covering uh, Bay of Bengals. We didn't talk about India, but we did cover the trade route changes from India. We did cover Nepal, and we're covering Myanmar um, next week. So based on this list, and I do believe we've covered Thailand before. Based on this list, we should cover Sri Lanka and Bhutan if we haven't already covered Bhutan, and cover India since we only covered the trade routes for India over the next uh, 4 weeks. That way, this whole area we've covered it for some reason. Now, for India, revitalizing BIMSTEC is the perfect tool to create an alternative rules based regional order. The heart of this vision is the BIMSTEC Master Plan for Transport Connectivity, a strategy to build an integrated network of roads, railways, and ports across the region. Projects like India's Corridor are key components aiming to create an east west axis to counter China's north south BRI corridors. This geopolitical competition creates a dynamic where the smaller nations of the Bay find themselves in an inviolable position. They can leverage the rivalry to attract investments from both sides while trying to maintain their strategic autonomy. Bangladesh, for instance, has expertly balanced its relationships. While it's a key partner in China's BRI, it chooses Japan, a close ally of India, to finance its most strategic projects, which is the Matarbari port. This balancing act is being played out across the region. The competition for influence means projects that might have uh, languished for years are now being fast tracked. This great game is not being played with armies, but with contracts, cranes, and container ships. The Cold War. It is a battle for control over the future of trade, and the Bay of Bengals is its central arena. So, when you bring these three forces together, a bounty for resources, a revolution in mega projects, and intense geopolitical rivalries, you get the world's next gold rush. A fully connected Bay of Bengals could redraw global supply chains, creating a new dynamic trading hub between the Middle East and East Asia. for the over 1.7 billion people in the countries surrounding it, this transformation promises a future of great economic opportunity. However, this golden future is not guaranteed because this rapid development comes with serious risks. The rush to extract resources poses a grave threat to the bay's fragile marine environment, but these perils themselves are creating another set of unorthodox investment opportunities because investing in the solution is another financial opportunity. There's a green rush where emerging to the counter is the negative impacts of the gold rush. This includes investments in environmental consulting firms, AI powered pollution monitoring, and new technologies for waste management and ballast water treatment to protect marine ecosystems. The risk of overfishing, for example, is driving investments in data driven fishery management. Projects in Bangladesh have shown that by aligning conservation with human incentives and providing alternative livelihoods, fish stocks like iconic Hilsa can be revived, delivering a return on investment of over 32%, which is pretty sweet because I'm operating at about 35%. And as the bay becomes a more crowded maritime highway, it also becomes a more attractive target for piracy and smuggling. And this is fueling a new market for maritime security technology. Companies providing drone surveillance, AI powered vessel tracking to spot dark shipping, and cybersecurity for newly digitized ports are seeing a surge in demand, with governments like India partnering with the United States on multi-million-dollar surveillance tech deals. Woven through it all, you'll still see the ever present risk that geopolitical competition could spill. And this will go directly into open conflict. For centuries, the Bay of Bengal was a sleeping giant. Today, that giant is awake and rising fast, driven by a bounty of resources, fueled by a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure boom, and accelerated by a great power rivalry. A new reality is taking shape. The Bay is transforming from a forgotten backwater into a critical artery of the global economy. And this modern gold rush isn't just about ports and pipelines. It's about sustainable aquaculture, marine biotechnology, and a new green tech service economy. The opportunities are enormous, but so are the dangers. So the question is no longer if Bay of Bengal will become a global economic hotspot, but who will write the rules and who will reap the greatest rewards. The world can no longer afford to look away. Neither can you. So what do you think? Let us know in the comment section below which power, India, China, or one of us will ultimately gain the upper hand in the new great game of the Bay of Bengals. And if you found this exploration insightful, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on all of the videos that we have coming up next. Because over the next few weeks, you will notice that we are pre posting the scheduled shows on YouTube up to 7 days in advance. So you get to hit the notification button so that if we start 5 or 10 minutes late, you get notified as soon as we go live. That gives you the ability to come back and watch us on Twitch or Twitter live the way you're watching us live now, but you never miss out on the opening of the show because the first 15 minutes of the show is breaking news information of whatever just happened and whatever we're about to look into based on real time information, which a lot of that information within the first 15 minutes of the show is not there on the post replay. So make it a point to swing round on the live so that you can get firsthand information on anything that could positively impact your ability to be successful. Now, with that being said, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, 65% male driven podcast from the male's perspective. I give you guys this information to help you guys become higher value men so that you can improve your financial life and make better decisions in your personal life, because your personal life, making bad decisions costs you money that negatively impacts your financial life, and not making enough money in your financial life causes you to work harder and not have enough availability for your personal life. These two scenarios intertwine with one another. We're bringing them together and giving you advice throughout the week to help you guys make changes to improve your life. So if there's anything in your life that you don't like, that is inside of your control to change, now is the time to change it, because you can come here to this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And you can talk to me about whatever the issue is. And I can guarantee you that I will give you information you might have not have thought about that you can utilize to help navigate yourself to a different solution. A lot of times, running away from the situation is not the solution. Sometimes negotiating your way through it might get you better results. But there are other times where staying in a negative situation is not going to benefit you, and retreating from a waste of effort and an unnecessary loss of resources is more beneficial to you than lingering out of loyalty, out of uh, 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 duty or dedication or even love. Staying in something that negatively impacts you is not beneficial to you. And for the sake of someone else is not beneficial to you. So if the person you're sacrificing yourself for doesn't benefit you, you can recoup what you've invested, it does not benefit you. And you need to make a change on that, because everything from your family, your relationships, your friends, your kids, your grandkids, if more comes out of you than what comes back to you, you still have less than nothing. And if those people who are living off of your efforts don't have the capability to reciprocate, if you don't have enough, no one has anything to replace what you have given out. Whereby, when everyone else was suffering, you was Captain Save 'em, and now that you're suffering, you're doing without alone. Think about that. You should never be in a situation where you have less than what you need, and everybody that you've helped got everything that they need because of you. If you got a network, it's called being hood rich. If you take care of your hood should take care of you. You should never need for nothing, because you made sure that everybody in your network never needed for nothing. Remember that. So I appreciate you guys coming to tonight's show. Thank you for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night. Oh, hold on.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.